Welcome back to the season of encounters, folks. This week, we're off to Bonner County, Idaho. More Bigfoot reports come from this part of Idaho than any other in the state, along with the news of the week, an Dorado Bigfoot watch update, and rounding it all off with another exciting Bigfoot campfire story. It's bound to have you on the edge of your seat tonight. And here's your host, the Reverend Jeff Kelly.
Live once again with the season of encounters right here at the Squatchers Lounge podcast, and I am indeed your host, the leader of the troop to nowhere, the Reverend Jeff Kelly. That's right. Tonight we are talking about Bonner, Idaho. I wanted to call it Boner. I know there's a dick joke in there somewhere, but apparently I'm wrong. It is Bonner. Idaho has quite a bit of sightings, and this particular county seems to be in control or hold the most of them. You know, the foot doctor himself, the Meldrum. He's definitely there from Idaho himself, so he should know what's going on. But first, as usual, we're going to take care of the news. Let's see here. Phys.org is talking about the Bite-Force research reveals dinosaur eating frogs. That's right. Scientists say that a large, now extinct frog called the Beelzebuffo that lived about 68 million years ago in Madagascar would have been capable of eating small dinosaurs. Nom, nom, nom. The conclusion comes from a study of South American horned frogs from the living genus, some Latin name that I'm not going to try and pronounce, also known as the Pac-Man frogs for a characteristic round shape and large mouth. Nature Journal Scientific Reports says that the University of Adelina, California State Polytechnic University, yeah, there's a whole bunch of friggin' universities involved with this. Unlike the vast majority of frogs, which have weak jaws and typically consume small prey, horned frogs ambush animals as large as themselves. Check that one out at phys.org. We love the animal kingdom. It just shows how diverse everything is. Speaking of diversities, I only thought that robins laid blue eggs, but apparently dinosaurs laid blue eggs, and that seems to be a big deal. In a twist for paleontologists, a fossil nest found in China shows that colored eggshells were not just for the birds. Get what they did there? Yeah. Robins may be famous for their beautiful blue eggs, but ancient feathered dinosaurs beat them to the punch. Feathered? Proto-feather? I don't know. Looking at fossil eggshells from China, researchers have found evidence that an omnivorous ostrich-like dinosaur laid clutches of blue-green eggs, potentially helping to camouflage them in open nests dug into the ground. Well, isn't that amazing? Why do ostriches lay white eggs now then? Strange. Check that one out. National Geographic. And speaking of frogs, the evolution of true frogs defies a long-held expectation of science. I bring this one up because, even science learns new things about things we already know about, let alone learning new things about things we don't know about. Evolutionary biologists long have supported that when species colonize new geographic regions, they often develop new traits and adaptations to deal with their fresh surroundings. They branch from their ancestors and multiply in numbers of species. I wonder if that leads from the proto-chicken to the chicken. Very well could be. Could be a virus, could be a lot of things. Apparently, this isn't the story of true frogs, though. The frog family scientists call Rondai are found nearly everywhere in the world, and their family includes familiar amphibians like the American bullfrog and the European common frog. New research from the University of Kansas appearing in Royal Society Biology Letters show, in contrast to expectations, the rapid global range expansion of true frogs was not associated with increased net diversification. So screw you, frogs. I'm going home. Frogs do it weird all the time. Speaking of weird, can you tell the difference between a coyote or a wolf? I sure could. Now, I got 95 out of 100 on this bad boy. Wolves have a big square face, and coyotes look like they're smiling at you. That's pretty much how you can tell the difference of them. The one on the right, you shoot on sight. The one on the left, you shoot twice on sight. I'm sorry, wolves kill for pleasure, not for food. They'll decimate herds. You don't let wolf populations go unchecked. That's why we don't have any wolves now. Yeah. Cry me a river. Don't kill the wolves, my ass. Coyotes, there's a hunting season that's open 24/7, 365 for a reason. You kill them on site because they kill and decimate deer and herds and other stuff. Bears, imagine that. We kill those too. Why? Because they kill everything we want to eat, people. All right. Wolves and coyotes, learn the difference. Finally, a little bit of Bigfoot news, and isn't this just a special kind of stupid? North Carolina mom invents spray she says will attract any Bigfoot within 1.5 miles. She doesn't have any pictures of any of this, so how the hell would she know? The nation's endless search for proof of Bigfoot existence may soon come to an end. A North Carolina-based wife and her mother has brewed a spray that says can attract any Bigfoot within 1.5 miles, sold at $7 a bottle. The environmentally friendly Bigfoot juice also doubles as a bug spray, said creator Webb. Remember that name, who runs a body care out of. She created it sitting in her kitchen table. How do you know it works? Webb asked, laughing. Oh, that's a tough question. I guess I could ask, how do you know it doesn't? There is anecdotal proof that her spray in fact attracts Bigfoot. Field tests have been done, she said, and they include a recent outing to the research group Bigfoot 911, in which a Bigfoot sighting was reported. Oh, so while Happy Shaman Boy was dressed up in 7-foot tall furs and running around and taking credit for that, now this woman's taking credit for the Bigfoot sighting because she sprayed her Bigfoot juice around and attracted the Bigfoot in. Okay, people. What's going on here with this Bigfoot 911 group? I joined it. It's crazy. I don't know if it's all publicity. What's really going on here? I just keep in mind there's some notorious stuff, nefarious stuff, probably both going on. So pay attention to it. Let's just say it and we'll leave it at that. Okay. Speaking of saying it and leaving it at that, go check out the Sacred Stone art page at MCCAB14 and check it out. I don't know what this is, but we're in the middle of the show here for a moment. Anyhow, Sacred Stone art, go check it out. I got my Bigfoot relic pipe here, and it is fantastic. Aaron makes some very, very cool stuff. Speaking of cool stuff, we're going to go right on over here and let y'all check out the Huck Outdoors channel.
This is Jason from Huck Outdoors, and you're listening to the best Bigfoot podcast on the net with Jeff Kelly. If you can, check out my YouTube channel. It's Huck Outdoors. It's an outdoor-based channel that I put out videos at least once a week. Some of the areas I cover are just out exploring the wilderness, hiking, camping, backpacking, fishing, off-roading, and also product reviews. So once again, that is Huck Outdoors on YouTube.
Well, there you have it. And that, my friends, is the news. Yeah, at least the portion of the news I'm going to cover for the night. All right, people. It's 2 weeks in a row, and it's absolutely amazing. That's right. We have a brand new quasi from the Mr. Dean Cooper. So let me get his little fancy dancy picture up here, and we'll hear. This one ought to be interesting. I don't listen to them before the show. I really don't. I share them with you guys naturally as I get them. All I really do is format them. So let's take a listen to the moth to the flame. And now, quasi theories from a quasi scientist with your host, Dean Cooper.
Like a moth to a flame. I was asked by a friend, so why are moths attracted to lights? Do they think they are flying to the moon? The quick answer is no. Why would a moth, or indeed any insect, want to fly to the moon? That kind of behavior is unwise and bodes ill for the long-term existence of your species. especially if your species shows a remarkable lack of certain intellectual skills. Skills like the forming of and testing of hypotheses, and then converting those hypotheses, which have been proven correct and are therefore proven theories, into actual tools. More tools, and ultimately fly to the moon without freezing or suffocating on the way. No known species of moth has done that, in the same way that no known scientist has actually figured out why moths fly into lights. That's not to say they haven't tried. There are a number of hypotheses, but no proven theories. Some think that, since moths evolved with no artificial light sources around, their navigation systems are screwed up by human light sources. But moths have had lightning bugs, glowworms, wildfires, and volcanoes around, and they deal just fine with those, and our yard lights are not that much different. Hypothesis, though, that I am partial to, even though it has some flaws, but it does a better job of covering the problem than the others. The hypothesis is by Philip Callahan, who, working in the 1970s as an entomologist with the USDA, suggested that an insect's antennae should be looked at as antennae. Antenna, as in a radio antenna, and not some sort of buggy equivalent of a nose. The usual view is that, in moths for example, the male cruises through the air using its rather fluffy antennae to sniff out the pheromone scent trail his mothy lady love has laid out in the breezes before him. The chemical snags on the antenna, which are presumed to have little sockets that fit the shape of the molecule, which in turn sets off the neural signal telling Romeo he is on the track of Juliet. Callahan, who is much more than an entomologist, looked at the male moth antenna and wondered what frequency of electromagnetic radiation it could be tuned to. He did the calculations and determined that they should pick up a spectrum of infrared wavelengths. He got some of the female moth pheromones, put them in a bottle, put a bright light on them, and the male moth wanted to fly at the bottle. Turn it off and he lost interest. It turns out that the pheromone absorbs light at higher frequencies, especially ultraviolet, and re-emits it as infrared. The male moth is following a trail of light, wafting in the gloaming light of dusk. It could be that many insects do the same. So, it could well be that one of the reasons bugs are attracted to lights is that, since all our lights give off some heat, which is infrared radiation, we are telling them to come and get some sweet, sweet lovin'. And then they die. You may read the text of this on my blog at bydean.com. That's BHAIDIN.com.
Well, there you have it. Bydean.com. Get it? By Dean. I actually never caught that until just this very moment. I doubt that's what it means. But anyhow, welcome back here. That's a right now a little bit of an update here for the Dorado Bigfoot search. That's Bigfoot watch. That's right. Our first donation cameras have actually arrived. Thank you, Mr. Rod DePree, sir. 2 of the Bresser trail cams are going to be put into service in your name, sir, as early as Sunday. I'm trying to get out there. I had some things at the house that came up. They're real easy to order. What we actually did was we ordered them on Walmart to my local store, and I was able to go and pick them up. They're 5 megapixel cameras, and they're going to be exactly what we need for the wildlife study. We're going to hope, Bigfoot walks by in the meantime, but during the investigations, that's what we're going to be looking for. So thank you very much to Mr. Rod DePree. The cameras are awesome. I've got SD cards to go into them. Going to get some batteries together for them and put them out into the field, and they should last at least 30 days and be able to soak out there for a decent long time to see what kind of large animals are moving through the area. I talked to a couple of people today about going out and doing some preemptive fall camping. We're going to try and set something up for the second week of October, just kind of start making some hits out there and see what kind of activity, animal activity, any kind of animal activity is going to be going on in October. What happens in a particular area that we're looking in, especially now getting set up in the fall, is the higher altitude animals come down out of the snow. And this is literally the first ridge line that sits below the 5,000-foot snow line. Here in California, when you hear about snow and rain lines, the snow and the rain lines are right about 5,000 feet. This is 600 feet below that, which was actually the tallest ridges in the area, ridge lines in the area. So at 4,400 feet, we're at that rain line, not at that snow line. And most of the deer populations come down here to winter. so do the animals that chase and feed on those animals through the winter. So we're really hoping to have an increased amount of audio activity through the winter. So we're going to be looking at putting some long-term audio recorders out there as well. But right now, we're just trying to get 8 or 10 game cams out there into a process to look at those unlogged canyon systems that sit above the creeks and the river system right on these high ridge lines. And we're really hoping to pull some kind of animal activity off of them. If you sponsor a camera, you get to see the results before I release them to the public. And they really, at 5 megapixels, are going to be fine. They're going to be plenty big enough pictures to see what's going on. We're going to position them in places so that they overlook large scale, not directly on a game trail. We want to see what's coming up and down the game trail, not what's actually walking on it or around it. So ideally, we have the right plan and the right place to do it. Now it's a matter of getting the cameras in. If you would be interested in sponsoring a camera for us, just email me at loungepodcast@gmail.com, and I will get you the directions on how to take care of it yourself. If you have any game cam sitting around in your hunting closet, in your gun cabinet, in your truck that you don't have, that you don't have any plans on putting back out, send them over to the project. I'll get them back out and working for us. Remember, this is everybody's project, not just mine. I'm just your hands and eyes and feet on the ground, and I'm going to tell everybody transparently what's going on with the project each week here on the show. So that is your El Dorado Bigfoot update of the week. Thank you so much to Rod Dupree. Now let's take a look at the official Bigfoot reports from Idaho, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. That's an old joke. You can check out. There's an interview of you. You just search for Coeur d'Alene, Idaho on my channel here. That comes up with something that Parrot Breakdown and I did way back in the day. It was a little bit of fun. Anyhow, we're looking right here at the edges of the Kinitsu National Forest as well as the Coeur d'Alene National Forest. There's a lot of little cities that run in here, and there are quite a bit of Bigfoot reports that actually come out of this area that stretch way back to pre-Patty. Imagine that. 1967, July. So we're talking a few months before the Patterson footage was even taken. The closest town is Bonner's Ferry. The road to Bonner's Ferry from the Spirit Lake. Hey, I was spending some time in the summer of '67 at Spirit Lake with a fellow and his father and his stepmom. Myself and they were bucking bales of hay at the Harold Glad farm, some 10 to 15 miles away. An old pickup truck, and we were coming back to Spirit Lake on a narrow, dusty road. It was not far from the Glad farm, and the road had a thick growth of lodgepole pine on either side of the road. This is where the hair on my back and my neck started tingling, which prompted me, sitting in the middle, to turn around and look behind me. What I saw was long-haired bipedal mammal with hair from head to toe. Complete 4 steps to get across the road. As soon as we passed the place, it came out onto the road and made it across before the distance and the dust hid it from view. I kept this as a secret for a lot of years because I was trying to protect it from the harm that was widespread back then. It never looked at us at all. Complete disregard as to our passing. Never mentioned this to either of the fellows we were with, so I don't know if either one of them saw it in the mirrors either. From them some days later, and was put on a bus with some other California friends. Typical road crossing type of situation. I don't know why we would discount that type of thing. Let's see here. Logger and granddaughter have a brief sighting at the Selkirk Mountains in fall of '69, October. Closest town would have been Sandpoint near Highway 200. My grandfather was a logging contractor, and we would frequently take me along on sale scouting expeditions. This particular day, we were driving in an area known by the locals as High Dive. Get a mountainous area above Lake Pend Oral. Most of the road is cut into the side of a mountain, so it's very steep on the uphill as well as the downhill side. It was fairly late in the afternoon. It was about an hour before dusk. The road is just an old Forest Service road and not very well maintained, so we were going fairly slow, maybe 20 to 25. My grandfather made and I won't repeat, and stopped the truck. In front of us, across the road, ran a huge, hairy animal. It ran down the uphill side of the road, crossed in front of us, and ran right downhill. This took all of about 2 or 3 seconds that I saw it although my grandfather, always on the lookout for game, must have seen it sooner. I remember that it was dark colored and hairy with long arms that swung sort of at an exaggerated way. And at the time, it looked 20 feet tall. I was only 7, but it really was probably 7 or 8 feet tall and didn't take long to cross the road down the side of the mountain. It maybe took 2 or 3 strides to accomplish that, and it was fast. My grandfather grabbed his rifle and jumped out to see if he could see it going down the hill, but he didn't. I can tell you that I was plenty scared. It definitely was not a bear or anything we had ever seen before. Twarn't. I swear I'm going to make a t-shirt design that says "Twarn't no bear." Let's move along here. October 1980. Very close daytime sighting by a woodcutter driving down a logging road east of Nordman. Of course, the nearest town is going to be Nordman, Idaho. Nearest road is going to be I-57. He says, I was driving down a logging road, passing a J-hole in the road. To my left, my eyes as it started to slide down the embankment on its feet. Standing up, almost skiing, I turned towards him, following him in my pickup as close as an arm's reach away. I'm not a journalist, so if someone would care to call me about this, I'd be more than happy to describe my encounter. Apparently, the BFRO did an upgrade with an update with him. It says after interviewing the witness, the following can be added to his account. The witness is now a retired truck driver, and he has hunted, fished, and camped his entire life. He and 2 other men were collecting firewood along the road for personal use. When the trucks were full, the 2 other men got into their 2-ton and left. The witness followed about 5 minutes later. He drove past a carved-out section in the road, and that's where a small group had camped in the weekend before. They spent that weekend picking berries, and they were very heavy that year. Blah, 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 blah. So apparently the guy's a woodsman, he's a camper, he's a fisherman, and it twarn't no bear. Winter hikers find a trail of footprints near Clark Foot. That's right, in the wintertime of 2000. Cross over the river at Clark Foot and one on a small 1-car bridge and take the dirt. I don't know how you find that in the snow. Anyhow, nearest town's Clark Fort. It was during the winter of 2000, and a friend of mine were trying to pass the long winter in rural North Dakota with a snow hike to the waterfall. On the ground that it was cold, dark, and snowy on that day. We drove up a dirt road as far as we could until it was chained off. We parked the car and walked up some snowmobile tracks to where the trail usually is. I say usually because it was totally covered in deep snow. Most people would have thought us crazy to be hiking that trail that day, but like I said, it was something to do in northern Idaho in the middle of the winter. So we managed through the deep snow, up a slight ravine, and there were no other tracks that a human made such footprints, snowmobile or snowshoe, going up this ravine. Probably about halfway up the trail ravine, we crossed some tracks. The hair on the back of my neck stood up as I looked down at the tracks. I knew instantly what I was looking at, but I tried to explain it some other way at first. The friend I was with grew up in Clark Fork and had lived in there his entire life. Without mentioning the word Bigfoot or Sasquatch, I looked at him and said, "Is this what I think it is?" And nonchalantly he replied something to the effect, "We see this kind of stuff around here all the time." Well, you know, we're looking at the maps there, the ridgeline systems and the way that the foothills and everything are situated is much like we see in many other places where they're reporting Sasquatch activity. So we'll move ahead here to the year 2008. Rock banging footprints in strange stripped tree on a high mountain ranch near Sandpoint. on a remote 25-acre ranch in the mountains just at the end of the primitive airstrip currently under construction. We've lived on this ranch for 25 years now. They explained loud rock banging, very close and clear, twice about 10 minutes apart. Found 2 possible left large footprints, very fresh within days due to new runway being done. Dogs have been going up to the said area and barking at something. The witness explained in a phone interview that he lives on a remote ranch near the top of the mountain with both a large pond and an orchard on his property. He was working in a big open clearing surrounded in the timber in August. The loud rock banging, he reported, occurred shortly after he turned off his heavy earth-moving equipment to stop for the day. Inspecting the area and his excavator, dump truck, and dozer, and he was accompanied by one of his Great Pyrenees dogs. And that was barking at the Sam Squanch in the woods. Bark, bark, bark. You know, Bigfoot don't like dogs. I don't know if that's true or not. I've never actually seen anybody who's been around anybody with a Sasquatch and a dog. Okay. Visitor to a ranch has an evening sighting near Priest River, 2015, December time. That's right. I was in rural Idaho, just north of a small town called Priest River. A friend and I go up to his ranch every year and just live there for a month. He has a dog that we bring along, and like every other dog, he has the occasional need to relieve himself. So it was nighttime, and it was my turn to take the dog out, so I picked up the Ruger 1022 and brought the dog out for him to urinate. I was waiting outside when I saw a dark figure just beyond the tree line. It was massive, easily twice my height, and it just stood there watching me. I would have taken a shot with my rifle, but any 22 long rifle round wouldn't do anything to a creature of that size. I just stood there, looking back at it. When suddenly, it broke out into a stride along the length of the tree line, and it silently disappeared into the night. I was frozen in place until the dog tugged on the leash, beckoning me inside. I quickly gathered myself and rushed to the door. I never saw clearly what was lurking in the darkness, but I'm sure it was a Bigfoot. And there you have it, folks. You know, watching people in the dark, does it happen? You get reports of hulking things standing in the tree lines, watching people all the time. One never can tell. All right, finally, we're going to wrap this one up here. A fisherman takes his late afternoon sighting upon Priest River, another one from 2016, just last year. Nearest town's going to be Norman, near Highway 57. I had the day off work, so I decided to head up fishing on the upper Priest River of the Idaho Panhandle near the Canadian border. I parked by a bridge that crosses the river about a mile south of the border and started working my way up from there. I probably got 1.5 miles to 2 miles up from the bridge when I started getting the feeling of being watched. The time I got that feeling was while elk hunting a few years prior, when me and a buddy turned around and saw a cat standing on the side of the trail behind us. Feeling like that again really put me on edge, so I kept working upriver pretty quickly. I got probably another mile up the river from there before turning around and working my way back down to the bridge. Once I got back to the same area as earlier, I started feeling like I was being watched again. I'd only gotten a few hundred yards away from that spot when I saw what I thought was a really big tree burl. A few steps forward when it looked like it rolled behind the tree. My first thought was that it was a bear, so I ran over a few feet to the side to try and see it better. When I got to where I could see that side of the tree, there was just a big, dark, brownish black, human-like shape standing there. I couldn't see a face or any good details on it because of the shadow from another tree on the other side of it. I always carry a sidearm with me for bear protection, but I still couldn't move. I was so scared. It looked at me for a few seconds and just turned and walked off. It hardly made any noise at all. I immediately turned around and ran as fast as I could the way back to my truck. Got out as fast as I could. I grew up in those woods and still spend many summers there every year, and I know that this was not a bear or a moose. or any other animal that should be in there. I never went back to that area again for the rest of the summer, and I don't think I want to go back. Just me, and I was fishing. That would scare the absolute crud out of me too. You can see the areas that we're talking about here. If we move in a little bit closer, maybe some of the cities will pop up. Sorry, I didn't realize it was out that line. But if you look at the ridge lines through the national forest, the snow lines, we're talking about the same types of areas that even the Pacific Northwest have. And all of those, all those areas, humans don't like to live in them, and we've protected them for animal resources. And that's where these types of definitely coming in from. So with that, that's going to do it for the official Bigfoot reports coming from Bonner County, Idaho. Actually, there's a bunch more. However, I'm going to save those for possibly a revisit to Bonner County, Idaho on another date. And with that, it's going to be time for a Bigfoot campfire story. I know that's what everybody actually wants. You're not here for anything else. You're just here to hear the news, the story of the week. And well, I can totally understand that. So I want to thank every one of you guys who are sitting out there waiting for me to say hi to you. And before we go to the Bigfoot campfire story, let's do that. See, you guys thought I was going to forget, but I didn't. I just saved it to the very end of the show because I've noticed that people come in late, and I want to make sure that I say hi to everyone. So there's a Miss Natalie Smith. How you doing there? I also saw that Ryan McGinty, my drunken Irish dad, he was out there. Dean Cooper, our quasi-therapist, is in the house. Mr. Rod Dupree, Mr. Official member of the El Dorado Bigfoot Watch. That's right. Jonathan Doty, how you doing, sir? I'm glad you are with us as well. Kurt Harris, that's right, your friendly neighborhood music man. Come join us tomorrow afternoon, 5 p.m. Pacific for Vinyl Power. That's right, where we talk about our love for vinyl records. Let's see, Life and Times of JCM. That's right. It was Wednesday, buddy, and you missed out on Gone Camping. But next week, we'll get a Camping Tips for Stupids, I'm sure. Let's see here. Lance Windsor, how you doing there, pal? I'm glad you're in the house. Jeremy Harrison, he's hanging out with us. There's Huck Outdoors. That's right. How you doing there, Jason? Hope you liked your promo. I add a little bit of sound music to it. John Briers, how you doing there, Chief? Glad you're with us as well. Ken, I got a little bit of gin all over my microphone, but he's hanging. Hey, man, glad you're out there with us. Let's see here. I know there's a whole lot more. Obsidian Radio, he's checking in as well. Glad you're with us. James the Grower, that's right. How you doing? Kat Yarborough is in the house. Brown Dwarf, there they are. Candy Apple. Timothy McCune, Just Me, how you doing? Luis, how you doing, pal? So glad you're in the house with us this week. I know there's more. Keith Hayden's in the house. I know there's even more than that. Just got to scroll down here a little bit further and find some of the newer ones. That's right. I know. It is definitely, my voice is going out tonight. It is definitely getting to be the end of the show. That is for sure. There's Gone Camping. He's checked back in with us as well. Matthew Gaines is in the house. I knew there was more people down here. And I'm sure Sam Squanch Rivera is in the house. And I know that Squatch Box is out there hiding somewhere with Christopher. And, of course, Gary and Whitney White. I talked to them. They're bringing food to your table, so make sure you say hi to them. Darth Sidmore, how you doing there, Chief? Glad you are with us as well. Let's see here. Always an adventure, Luna. That's right. She cooks the craziest things in the middle of nowhere. It's just amazing to watch. It really, really is. Forest Crabs. People call me Forest Crab. How you doing, man? Glad you're with us. I know there's more. I saw them. I know there was. But I'm actually down at the bottom, so I guess maybe not. That may be. Oh, there's Forest Groves. How you doing there, Forest Groves? And Christy Scambra. Sorry, I just slaughtered that one. I'm an effing problem. Glad you're in the house. Nicole, L.A., Jason Gerd. I see those are people that are now in the house. And Starshine, I'm sure she's out there somewhere. She's just floating around, just doing stuff. So there you have it, people. Thanks, everybody, for being here this week. I'm so glad that everybody checked in with us. And yeah, I know how it's spelled, sweetheart. I just can't pronounce it. How about a little bit of phonetics there, Christy? Sorry about that. And with that, thanks, everybody, for being here, and enjoy this new Bigfoot campfire story. There'll be an after hangout after this concludes. So thanks for being here, and may the Squatch be with you. What the hell is that? I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that was a Bigfoot. Let me tell you a story. Welcome to another Bigfoot campfire story. It was the summer of 1999, and I was investigating an area of farmland within the Ocala National Forest. While I checked in with the local grocery store and picked up some supplies, the clerk I usually talk to pulled me aside and told me I should head up 19 apiece and talk to the sheep rancher near Grasshopper Lake. So I finished up my business. That's exactly where I went next. This is the story that the rancher told me. Well, I had been out on my four-wheeler all day with the dogs rounding up the sheep. Me and the dogs were on the back meadow area, and the sheep weren't acting right at all. Usually they know the drill and they just let the dogs do their jobs, but today that just wasn't the case. Well, there was a narrow wooded cut that we had to go through to get onto the other side, and none of the sheep wanted to enter it whatsoever. Well, every time we got the sheep moving, they would all turn when they got to the wood line, and it just made no sense at all. So I drove my four-wheeler into the tree line and checked for any predators, and sure enough, there was a really nasty odor of something dead. Well, I searched the area until I found the source, and sure enough, it was one of my sheep, dead and ripped open at the organs. Something had gotten to it, that was for sure. The neck was snapped straight back, very strangely. Well, I had to get this herd past its spot, so I went back and I grabbed the lead sheep and I put her across my four-wheeler, and finally the sheep followed us through the woods and back towards the corral. Well, I planned to go out later and burn the body in place and get rid of the smell of the carcass. Once on the other side of the wood patch, I put the lead sheep back down and the dogs took care of the rest, and things seemed pretty normal after that. Well, it was getting late and the sun had already set long before I was finished putting the sheep up, so it was too late to bother with that carcass for now, so I just put the dogs up on my four-wheeler into the barn and went inside for dinner. Well, I'd cleaned up and sat down with the wife to eat, and she asked me if I caught the animal that was running around the backyard just before I came in. She said he'd been out there for a while this afternoon, just pushing trees around and whooping like a big monkey or something. Well, I thought for sure she was joking, but the Seminoles have legends of Bigfoot around here. Could they be right? Well, we were finishing up our meal when the whooping started again from just out back. Well, I grabbed my big flashlight and we headed out to the back porch. We stood there listening to something in the wood line right behind the house. Every once in a while, it would whoop like a big, loud, deep monkey. Well, I stepped off the porch alone, and I told the wife to stay where she was, and I walked down towards the wood line, calling out to try and scare whatever it was away. Well, just as I got close to the wood line, everything, and I mean everything, got silent. It was very eerie feeling. I shined the light around trying to make out anything, but it was dark out there. Well, I turned around to start to walk back towards the house, and before I could react, something ran out of the woods, grabbed me by the leg, and was dragging me into the woods. Well, I still had my light, so I was shining it right on whatever the hell it was. I couldn't believe it, but this was a giant ape Bigfoot thing, had me securely around the leg. Well, I began kicking it with the other leg and shining the light at its head, and it finally dropped me about 12 meters or so into the woods and then scampered off. The wife screaming out for me. She had already grabbed my shotgun from inside the house, called 911. I could hear her yelling at them on the phone that some monster had carried me off into the woods. Well, I called out to her so she wouldn't shoot me, and I ran my way back into the house. Well, a few minutes later, the local sheriff showed up with 3 cars and a canine, and they went straight out to the backyard and began searching for anything. Well, it wasn't long before huge footprints were located near the creek in the back, leading away from the property. Well, the men tracked it up the creek for a while, but until the tracks just went cold, the dogs lost all interest, so they all returned back to my farm. We talked about what happened, and they kept asking me what the guy looked like, but they weren't very happy when I kept telling them he was 8 foot tall, covered in hair, and whooped like a huge monkey. The sheriff kept insisting that he couldn't put that in the report, and after an hour arguing with him, he finally marked it down as unknown animal attack. Filled out his paperwork just the same way. Well, the wife and I now stay vigilant, and I never leave the house unarmed anymore. It was the single most disturbing thing I've ever had happen to me in all my years. Well, this farmer knows what it's like to be challenged by a Bigfoot and never wants to know that feeling again. Thanks for listening. I'm Reverend Jeff. May the Squatch be with you.